Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today, we're going to be talking about Monday Night Raw from December the 13th, 2021. A show that was not very good and yet still kind of went by fast. I don't know how to... Usually the best shows go by fast, but this one wasn't very good. Still went by pretty fast, though. Alright, so the central theme of this show was Bobby Lashley's quest to get into the title match at day one. That's what he wanted to do. That was his goal. Spoiler alert, he actually did it. He found his way into the title match at day one. So, how did we get there? Well, Lashley opened the show, him and MVP. Lashley opening the show as he should, because he is a top guy, and he's wearing a burnt orange suit. He looks like he was wearing a couch. But hey, I mean, that's typical of wrestlers now. Everybody except Big E and Kevin Owens knows how to dress. So Lashley, of course, says that it's disrespectful. These young wrestlers are disrespecting him by not mentioning him when they talk about the WWE Championship. MVP said that he's the most terrifying man in WWE. They won't even mention his name, and that all these new dudes are whiners and complainers. But Lashley doesn't whine. He doesn't complain. But he does believe he should be added to the day one triple threat match. Kevin Owens says that he hasn't paid attention to anything Lashley's done in 2 years, which is weird because Lashley was the champion less than 2 years ago. Said that Rollins earned his shot at least. But in 19 days, he needs to be the WWE champion so he can give the people a champion that they deserve. And something they can be proud of. And he actually healed on the crowd, which is interesting because I thought they kind of had gave up on his whole heel shtick. Apparently, he's still a heel. Okay. Rollins, of course, came out there and says he admires Lashley's suit, which was, again, burnt orange, and says that he despises Kevin Owens, but doesn't think either of them should be in his title match because he rightfully won the title shot. Has been getting screwed over ever since. Big E then came out there and said that everybody's quaking in their boots about Lashley. But he beat Lashley for the title. No problem doing it again. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville said that if anybody touches anybody, that they're going to be fired and suspended. But they like the Fatal 4-Way idea. But only if Lashley can beat all three of them one-on-one in separate matches tonight. MVP then accepts that challenge. And then Lashley, of course, defeated all three of them. So how did he win these series of matches? Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville picked Kevin Owens to go first. Kevin Owens was pretty confident that he was actually going to win. Before the match, he said that everything about this is trash. That Lashley is trash. That him having to go first is trash. And that St. Paul, Minnesota is trash. Which, of course, got him over like a wet fart in church. He then went out there and wrestled Lashley in a pretty solid match. Then he tapped out to the Hurt Lock before the Hurt Lock was even properly applied. So he had one arm hooked. And as he was looking in the other arm, Kevin Owens just tapped out and rolled out of the ring. So the only thing that's interesting from this match is that Lashley barely lifted old Bubba Ray Owens. He had him up in a dominator position and he was trying to hold him. He was trying to get him, but it was just too much. It's too much weight. Even for the Almighty who, eats T-bone steaks and lifts barbell plates. He was a little heavy. A little chunky boy. He's chunky. So that's how that happens. Rollins was pissed and said that Kevin Owens didn't even try and that he submitted long before the move was even locked in. Later, Kevin Owens explained that he didn't want to get hurt. That he submitted in the Hurt Lock because he didn't want to get hurt. I said that he got a good plan. And his plan is to help Seth Rollins win. Seth Rollins was upset with him and disgusted with him, quite frankly. He said he wanted nothing to do with him. And said that he was going to handle it by himself. But Kevin Owens said, no, I got a good idea. I got a better idea. We're going to handle it together. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins was like, nope. Not interested at all. So he went out there and they wrestled. Then Kevin Owens attacked Seth Rollins outside the ring, got him disqualified. Therefore, Lashley loses. Very smart booking decision here. And, of course, it would have ruined the story So Lashley can't possibly lose. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville come out there and decide they're going to restart the match and make it no disqualification for the rest of the challenge. So Seth Rollins, who was in the ring, hears that this is going on, is absolutely disturbed and distracted, gets speared and pinned. So I think this is the first time Lashley and Seth Rollins have ever had a singles match, and they end up having 2 singles matches back to back, both of which ended in buttfuckery. So there that go. The third match features Big E, who was going to go out there to fight Big Old Bob by himself. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins being 2 idiots to come up to him and they say, look, you're our last hope. Big E flatly rejected any help from them and decided there is no way he's going to accept any help from them. He doesn't need them. He beat Lashley before. He doesn't need them. MVP said that Lashley is up to a Herculean task having to beat 3 mainstream superstars at one night, but Hercules ain't got nothing. Don't even compare to the Almighty, and therefore Almighty Bobby Lashley could do it. So the main event, no disqualification, Big E, the WWE champion, versus Bobby Lashley. In the middle of the match, let's talk about the match first. In the middle of the match, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins comes out there to beat up on both of them. For starters, they was beating up on Lashley first. They stomped Lashley. They was beating the hell out of him. Big E then saves Lashley by beating up one of the guys for him and ended up putting Kevin Owens through a table. Then Lashley spears Seth Rollins through a table. This led to Big E, Lashley going back to their match being one-on-one. MVP blasts Big E in the knee with his cane. Spear, pin, Lashley is in. It was a poetic little story there with Big E's leg being taken out. Similar to how, Big E defeated Lashley when Lashley's leg was taken out. So, nice little poetics there. Hated it though. Hated everything about this. I hated it all the way through. Look, as much as I love Lashley, y'all know if I hate something, there's a reason for it. Now, the reason why I hated this is because you don't introduce something like this without the payoff. You introduce the concept of Lashley becoming the number one contender or entering this match. You have to pay that off. If you go through the entire show and then Lashley doesn't win, right, then you've wasted 3 hours of everybody's life. So you have to pay off by putting Lashley in the match. Okay, fair enough. This means, however, that he has to beat the WWE champion in a no disqualification match. So you can't even you can't get around Big E losing. Big E has to get pinned or submitted. He's the fucking champion. You want to beat this guy pinfall or submission in the middle of the fucking ring. Even though they tried to throw 100 things at it with chairs and tables and they were spine busting each other through tables and all that kind of shit. There was a run in. I get that they tried to protect him. But it was still a fucking bad situation to put this guy in. Why would you put him in this position? To get beat? What benefit? Like, you could have done a similar thing just by saying to yourself, hey, either Big E goes first and then he gets disqualified. And maybe that's where you do Kevin Owens does the disqualification thing. And maybe that gets us out of that situation. Because Kevin Owens tried to get Big E disqualified. It didn't work. Maybe he ends up kicking Lashley by mistake, gets Big E disqualified, Big E loses. All right, whatever. We could have got Big E out of the way, then he could have won the next 2 matches however he wanted to win them. The second situation you could have done is not have Big E in this situation at all by saying he has to beat the other 2 guys. He's got to beat Kevin and Seth Rollins to get into this match. Still a fucked up situation, still not cool, still don't like it, but at least it would have made more sense. In this situation, Lashley should be the fucking champion because he just beat the champion. You just completely devalued Big E. I mean, the guy who just lost to Roman Reigns, who's been trying to build him back up. You know, he gets very little momentum as it is. He doesn't really get to start the show anymore. He doesn't feel like the star of the show. And it's the same thing they did to Lashley, to be quite honest. You know, they booking Lashley and Big E pretty similarly, just from different perspectives. Just one is the babyface, one is the heel. Another thing that I hated about this, where the hell was the Hurt Business? You mean Lashley has to wrestle 3 matches? And they could have made it easy by having Cedric and Shelton jump these guys one at a time to beat them up, to soften them up. That way you definitely could have protected everybody involved. If Big E was jumped by Cedric and Shelton, then everybody could have said, oh, well, the Hurt Business jumped them. And then, you know, Lashley won. It would have been a good galvanizing moment for the Hurt Business. Could have really put them over strong. You know, could have set up a 6-man tag. You know, can they coexist for next week? You know, it could have done a lot of different things, but for some reason, the Hurt Business didn't exist this week, which is, of course, inconsistent storytelling because we were told they were back together. So are they back together or are they not? Does anyone care anymore? No, nobody cares apparently. So I hated this. You know, I get that you want to have Lashley earn his way in. I'm fine with that part. But you have to think of another way of getting him in this match. I didn't have him beating the champion or having, I believe this is his very first singles match with Seth Rollins. And they threw it away on Raw. The match was less than 6 minutes. They did little to nothing against each other. It was just 2 guys. I mean, it was just basically playing out the story in the ring. And that was pretty much it. There was no real match between these two. You know? And I don't know. I hated this. I hated all of this. I feel like it's a giant waste of fucking time. When you could have just said Lashley is in at the beginning of the show and then set up a tag team match for the main event or something. But they had the same fucking reaction. You know, I get that there were injuries because of the Mysterios. I believe one of the Mysterios, probably Dominic, got hurt. A lot of people said it was Ray that might have been injured, but Ray was covering for Jeff Hardy. So I don't know if it was Ray that was hurt. Maybe it was. Who knows? And half of the Street Profits, I think Montez Ford, got hurt. So they couldn't have the bro finals tournament thing, okay? They had to fill that time somehow, so they decided to fill it with Lashley wrestling 3 times. So my thing is, why not go with your original plan, which is to whatever your original plan was, minus the tag team match thing. I'm pretty sure they weren't going to have Lashley wrestle 3 times anyway, regardless of whether the Mysterios versus the Street Profits happened or not. I'm pretty sure that wasn't going to happen. But, and this is the final thing I want to say on the subject of this particular thing, is I'm tired of street fights. I'm tired of no disqualification matches. I'm tired of street fights. I feel like there has been a no disqualification match or a street fight on every single wrestling show for the past 3 months. I feel like there has been somebody, either Impact has done it, AEW has done it, WWE has done it, NXT has done it. Somebody is doing a no disqualification match on television. I absolutely hate it. We're doing too many. Last week it was Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor had one, Fight Without Honor. Shane Taylor versus Kenny King. No disqualification. You know, where guys are just crashing through tables, hitting each other with all kinds of stuff, and they're not really selling it. So, like, it was a really weird spot where Lashley gets body slammed on the ring steps. You know, he removed the top part of the steps and slammed them on the flat. And it looked ugly. It was a pretty good bump. Lashley wasn't even selling it like a minute or so later. He wasn't even like selling his back or nothing. It's like never has wrestlers done more stuff to themselves, sold it less, and people believed it less. And people watched it less. Like, they completely have bastardized. And it's not just WWE, it's the entire business. Like I just said, it's always somebody doing a no disqualification match. Nothing fucking matters anymore. You know, they have blown everything out of proportion for cheap thrills on television. This is absolute bullshit. You know, it's bullshit. Now, as much as I love Bobby Lashley, unless he's going to win. They also, and I should mention this because it's probably, I mean, I lied earlier. It's not going to be the last thing I say. I have so much to talk about when it comes to this subject. They booked Bobby Lashley like a babyface. He's a heel though, right? So you had the heel has to overcome the odds to get into the title match. Now, I know that when we were, chitter-chattering a couple of weeks ago and we saw that video package for Lashley, we were saying to ourselves, we were discussing this, that they were positioning Lashley as a babyface. And most people agreed. Like, yeah, when you talk about their backstory, their, his military, his amateur wrestling, OVW, all that kind of stuff, yeah, he comes across like a huge babyface. This sounds like that's the direction he's going to go in. But when he comes back, he beats up all these guys, Big E included. That's heelish. He comes out, calls everybody cowards, they're scared to fight him. Okay, heelish. But then you set up this Herculean gauntlet where 2 of the 3 matches are against heels. So the first 2 matches are heel matches. Who are the fans supposed to cheer? That's the question. Hey, who are the fans supposed to cheer? You had Kevin Owens start the match, or right before the match starts, he's talking about how Minneapolis or St. Paul sucks. So you got Kevin Owens saying that St. Paul sucks and then goes out there to have the match. Now, Lashley didn't say that St. Paul sucks, but he's a heel, And what are you going to do? Who are they going to root for? Kevin Owens? He just said they suck. Is he going to root for Lashley? Well, Lashley's a big bad bully. Who are they supposed to root for? The next match, you got Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is a sleazy heel. Is they supposed to cheer for the sleazy heel or the big bad heel? You don't. Why would you create that situation? It doesn't make sense. Why would you create the situation where you can just leave the audience to sit there and be like, I don't know. Now, Big E, that match got over. And I mean by it got over, I mean the fans were into it. They were chanting Big E rocks, New Day rocks, all that kind of stuff. They were into it. Because it was a traditional babyface heel match. Now, if you wanted to set up 3 randos for Lashley to beat, that would have been fair. You should say, Lashley hasn't, he's got to earn his shot. So there's a bunch of other guys who want to get in. Lashley's got to beat those guys. And then you put some guys out there, whoever. And then Lashley beats each one of them and he gets in. But it's everybody beating everybody. Nobody has any momentum. You got Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens coming into this match. And they're bickering with each other. But they're probably going to end up being tag team partners next week or something stupid like that. It's a mess, man. It is an absolute cluster. And it's frustrating as hell. Because it doesn't need to be. This feels like something that was written on the fly. Like these guys they're doing their best, as far as their chemistry is concerned and, bouncing off of each other. They're doing their best, but, you're not positioning them right. Now, I did enjoy the character moment for Big E when he didn't want those guys involved in his match. He wanted to beat Lashley square up. So he fought off Rollins and Owens, which he didn't need to do. And I found that to be very interesting. I said, if they're booking Lashley like a babyface and they put him in this gauntlet and now you got Big E helping him, like that could have been an interesting thing that maybe, Big E and Lashley have a respect for one another, having gone to war a bunch of times, and they can work together to fight off Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, who are the 2 sleazeballs who are trying to, screw these guys over. But ultimately, this is a match and somebody has to win. And then I could have said, all right, all of this would have made perfect sense if Lashley would have turned babyface right here. If this would have led to Lashley, shaking Big E's hand or something like that, and then saying like, let's finish this, you and me, 1-on-1, that would have been fine. It still wouldn't have been good for Big E because he still would have had to lose. But at least it would have been, hey, we were booking this guy as a babyface. Now we're kind of just going to go with him being a babyface. It would have split the audience for sure because now you got Lashley going to be turning face and you got Big E in the ring as a face. I get it. Still wasn't the situation I wanted to put him in. But at least it would have made sense that you were booking him and positioning him as a babyface, and he ends up as a babyface on the other end. Except Swerve, MVP, smashes him in the knee. Now, to be quite honest, like I said, it's good poetics, considering that's how Big E won the title. The problem with this is that you wasted all this time booking Lashley as a babyface just to keep him as a heel. I mean, villains get a hero's embrace, and the world is covered in muted shades of gray. Who the hell cares? Just put the belt back on Lashley, man. I mean, ultimately, just put the belt back on Lashley. I mean, I will forgive you if you put the belt back on Lashley. They'll never do it, but they need to. This shit needs to be on. This shit is on life support at this point, man. They run out of ideas. All right, so let's finally move on. 20 minutes. Let's finally move on to something else. Finally. Riddle and Randy Orton. Randy Orton says the tag team title should be their top priority. Riddle wants to be a podcaster. He also wants to be a shaman. Riddle says, Randy Orton says, rather, that Riddle needs to focus. If he gets this W on Otis, he will consider doing the broadcaster thing again. And Riddle was excited about this. Riddle versus versus Otis, rather. Riddle versus Otis. This match got over. You know, people were really into Riddle, and Otis did a good job. You know, he picked up Riddle and ran him into the barricade. Good spot. But at the end, Otis wins, and with a pop-up power slam. The fans are really behind RK Bro, but Riddle never wins singles matches. After the match, Randy Orton tries to get a RKO on Otis. Otis shoves him off. He ends up RKOing Chad Gable. Then Otis dropped Riddle, and Otis and Gable, stood tall to end the segment. Alpha Academy back on track. Okay. Riddle losing. He almost always loses singles matches now. The eyeball thing is, I don't remember this being dirty. I think this was just straight up Otis won, which is not terrible, but not exactly the best thing for Riddle. I think me and so many others have stated, and this kind of headcanon, so it's not something that we were told by WWE, but I think most of us kind of accept that out of this thing is Riddle and Randy Orton. They're probably going to have that match at WrestleMania. Well, at some point, Riddle's going to have to start looking like a more competitive singles star. We know that he was a United States champion, and that he's a good dude who can throw some hands. Now we're seeing a lot of his personality, which is good. But we also need to see the Stallion Bro do some good stuff and actually win matches. Maybe, but I know that his losing is part of the storyline, which is something that I think that a lot of the dirt sheets don't. When they get so caught up in wins and losses, they don't understand that it's part of the storyline. For instance, Riddle losing, it's part of him being distracted by doing the wanting to be a podcaster, broadcaster, shaman, all this kind of stuff. That's part of why he keeps losing. Now, eventually it's going to start affecting Randy, and Randy's going to want to cut bait, which is what I'm thinking we're going here. This is a similar story, similar situation that took place with Rhea Ripley later, that I know a lot of people lost their minds about. I was not really surprised, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But Randy Orton and Riddle, okay. I think we need to start upping the ante a little bit when it comes to RK Bro. I know they're in a holding pattern because this is likely, again, the WrestleMania match, and we're 4 months off. So we'll see. Doudrop was defeated by Bianca Belair, who defeated her with a 450 splash. For Bianca Belair's 450 splash is very odd. It is an awkward 450, but she gets her full rotation, and it's very unique. It's not a typical cruiserweight 450 where it's tight. She does it in a very loose way, so it's looks very different. But I'm surprised she actually beat somebody with a 450. That's pretty interesting. So Bianca says that Doudrop walked out last week and that she can't whoop her, not going to let it happen again. Doudrop says she's not going to, she's been through a lot and all people can talk about is Bianca and it's time for somebody else to take the spotlight. Doudrop showed off a little bit. They had a pretty good match here between the two of them. Doudrop didn't just go in there and get beat. They also didn't give away the big spot, even though they gave away the clean finish. I thought Doudrop would get disqualified here, and they would have no disqualification match next week because, again, every week has to be a no disqualification match. And they still might. They still might. But I enjoyed the Doudrop's performance in this match. I thought she was pretty good. And to be quite honest, I said on Twitter, and I'm saying it again, I think that she is one of the few credible contenders on Raw against Bianca Belair, and this 99% her size. She just looks like somebody Bianca Belair would have a powerhouse wrestler would have a harder time beating due to her size. And I was thinking that would be something that would lead them to milk this storyline, that you wouldn't want to beat Doudrop so fast because her storyline is her size and that she really needs to prove herself. But after she gets beat, it wasn't over. She attacked Bianca after the match. So this feud will continue despite the fact that Bianca Belair won. Okay. Not thrilled about Doudrop losing. But it was inevitable because Bianca is booked very, very strongly. Another thing I noticed a little pattern here, and is that Bianca Belair's stories tend to all feature a hater, quote unquote. And it's kind of been this way for a while. For starters, it was Sasha Banks that was the hater. She kept calling her a rookie, saying that she hadn't done anything. Bayley was the same way. Bayley was saying, just laughing at her, making fun of her, saying that she, that kind of thing. Then, of course, Becky Lynch, jealous. How could you have done everything? You only did so much because I wasn't here, or that kind of stuff. And now Doudrop is like, you're still in the spotlight. You're yada, yada, yada. Okay. They're kind of building up this particular, it's like Hogan and Bruno, they had their thing with loyalty and betrayal, where you had, San Martino, his biggest draws were when he got betrayed by Larry Zbyszko. And then you had Hogan. All of Hogan's major storylines featured a friend turning their back on him. Paul Orndorff, Andre the Giant. He even did it in WCW with the Zodiac, where, what are you doing, brother? Randy Savage, the Mega Powers exploding. All of Hogan's biggest storylines were all Hogan is friends with this guy, and now this guy hates Hogan. And it works. And it continued to work. And it kept working. So they kept doing it. So, and then, of course, Hogan would wrestle monsters or whatever. So they're trying to do something similar where they're trying to create a certain cast of villain for Bianca Belair, knowing that her character is very braggadocious, is very loud. And in some contexts, it could be considered a heel character. So, and taking that she is, a certain way, they try to cast her villains a certain way. And I think it's actually quite effective with Doudrop, because Doudrop is one of the understated women on the roster who can make that claim that I should be in that spot, not her. Why does she keep getting opportunities and I don't? It can only work if somebody is on a lower level than Bianca Belair and trying to move up. In which case, Doudrop's performances can actually be, elevate to Bianca's level. But she's going to need some help. And basically, she's going to need a manager. And too bad that they got rid of Eva Marie, because that would have been a perfect place for Eva Marie to come back in and turn Doudrop into the King Kong Bundy of the women's division. I don't see why she shouldn't be that. But she's never really going to get over on Bianca Belair. I said the money spot is Doudrop catching that KOD. Once that happens, this feud is over. That's what they're looking at. That's what they're waiting on. They're waiting for Bianca Belair to do that, to do the KOD on Doudrop. Because after that, Doudrop's weight and all that kind of stuff won't be an issue anymore. But they also have to be careful with that spot because that torture rack area where, you know, you put people on your neck, there's been a lot of people who have been forced into retirement for that. So I don't want them, you know, it's easier for Bianca because she's strong and the other women are very small. But Doudrop is pretty heavy, you know, and you don't want to keep picking up Tamina's and Nia Jax's and Doudrops and putting them on her fucking spine. You don't want to keep doing that. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Queen Zelina defeated Rhea Ripley in a match that pissed off a lot of people, to be quite honest. I wasn't thrilled with it, but I think they set it up with the early promo where Nikki was talking about, you know, how she screws everything up and, you know, how she shouldn't be, she's holding back Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley gave her this big pep talk where she talked about how she saw fire inside of Nikki and she wants that version of Nikki, the one that became the champion. She wants that version of Nikki back. And that's the version of Nikki she wants to be a tag team partner with. So they set it up where, you know, Rhea Ripley is now being fully invested into Nikki being good. Nikki doesn't have the confidence. Her confidence is shaken. She's not really on top of her game. So Zelina comes out. She's got a little bit of a remix to her theme, which I really enjoy. She's doing a really good job doing the 3 different accents. She's doing the accent, then she's dropping the accent and doing Spanish. And then she's going from there to, you know, just being from New York with the New York accent. She's doing really good stuff right now. Her and Carmella are really strong characters together. Really digging them. So from there, and when we get into the ring, the bell rings. Carmella then super kicks Nikki and kind of knocks her on her ass. After that, you know, Rhea Ripley goes over there to see what was going on. Like, hey, Nikki, are you okay? And in doing so, Zelina hits a crucifix, you know, and gets pinned. You know, it only takes 3 seconds of the distraction, basically a distraction roll up. And people lost their minds. People went absolute ape, you know, because Rhea Ripley lost to Zelina Vega. I mean, and then everybody treats wins and losses as if they're the exact same. So they're almost completely devoid of context. You know, so I saw tweets like Rhea Ripley lost to somebody a half her size. And I would say, well, for starters, everybody that Rey Mysterio has beat, most of them are half his size. How many times have we seen guys like Adam Cole, so guys that are twice his size and be competitive, and in some cases even win? Like, how many times have we seen like Daniel Bryan beat guys who are much taller than he is, much bigger than he is? These things seem to be not only accepted, but it's okay. But in this situation, it becomes something worth talking about. But that wasn't really even the issue for me. What the issue for me was that it was devoid of context. You know, the context of the situation is simple. Rhea Ripley did not wrestle Zelina Vega head up and was beaten. It was Zelina Vega took advantage of Nikki being a weak link, which is they have been telling us this story for several weeks now, that Nikki is the weak link. And once again, Nikki has caused Rhea to lose. It's almost the exact same story they're doing with Randy Orton and Riddle. I mean, they're telling the story that in Riddle's case, he's distracted by just being stupid. And Randy is sort of frustrated by the stupidity of Riddle and how outlandish he is. In this situation, of course, it is Nikki's confidence has been shattered since he's lost the Raw Women's title. Her confidence has been sort of shaken. And she has, you know, has caused her to be labeled the weak link. And then, you know, she's kind of acting the part. And they're taking advantage of her. And so it's devoid of context to say that Rhea Ripley was just plain beaten by Zelina Vega as if there was some 15-minute back and forth match in which she lost via, you know, dominant fashion. It's like, no, that's not what occurred. Now, a win's a win, a loss is a loss. But in WWE, I mean, people have been watching this stuff for 30 years. How could you be completely devoid of context? I mean, that's like me saying Hurricane Helms beat The Rock. Technically, that's true. If I go and look at the results of that Raw, Hurricane Helms beat The Rock. What more can you tell me? And then if I tell you the context of how Hurricane Helms beat The Rock, you wouldn't have cared. You would say, okay, well, who cares? You know, you know, it's like when you add context to certain situations, it changes how it occurred. So, and since we live die by the anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation, you know, this kind of thing is not that big of a deal. I don't like it, by the way. I don't like that Rhea Ripley lost. But if we're going to be talking about guys losing to people half their size, I mean, for fuck's sake, look at what's been going on in other companies. It's been going on for a lot, quite often. You know, and in this situation, innocently enough, these were a lot of people who were bitching about Zelina Vega losing. You know, Zelina Vega losing all the time. Why she, you know, when she was quote unquote being a jobber and she was buried and all that kind of stuff. She's a sellout and all that shit. Now she's winning matches and people are complaining. Like, it's almost as if you can't win for losing just by being on this show. It doesn't matter what you do. Now, that being said, all that being said, I don't like that Rhea Ripley lost because I don't think that we are seeing enough fire out of Rhea Ripley. She's being too nice. It doesn't seem to fit the character that they've given her, you know, with the nightmare and everything. It doesn't seem to fit that she's just okay and accepting of Nikki being a loser. It seems that at some point she's going to have to light the fire under Nikki and maybe even walk away. And it doesn't seem like they're in a rush to do that quite yet. They need to hurry up on that. They need to fix that. But I do like the Carmella Zelina Vega duo. I'm enjoying that tandem. It just sucks that Rhea Ripley's on the losing side of this thing. But until we figure out what we're doing with Nikki, and she's going to be the weak link, and she's going to be the reason everybody loses, then, you know, we're stuck with this for a while, at least until we figure out where Nikki goes. You know, does Nikki, again, I'm saying it would be sweet if they do a Nikki Ash no more, and she throws the superhero suit away, and she comes back as the Twisted Sister. I'll be all for that, you know, and they would have the story all set up, you know, but I really question whether they're going to actually do it or not. You know, knowing WWE, it's likely not. She'll probably find the strength within herself, the power of friendship, and some other anime shit in order to overcome the odds and win. You know, whatever. They announced the WWE Next in Line kids, which was okay, I guess. Not really that upset about it. Some of the football players look promising. They're obviously going to change some of these looks. You know, all these people are in their pupil stage. We don't even know how many of these kids are going to even make television. So before we start, you know, jumping up and down for them, this is just an opportunity. They're basically just, you know, getting their feet wet. We'll see them in 2 years. How about that? Let's look at them in 2 years. All right, so before we get into the Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan stuff, let's talk about Dana Brooke hanging out with Reggie. They're keeping him doing storylines with women. He's trying to date Dana Brooke, take her out for hot chocolate. And then they got attacked by Tamina, R-Truth, and Akira Tozawa. Akira Tozawa and R-Truth were dressed like snowmen and I guess a swamp thing. And Dana Brooke was fighting Tamina. I don't know. I think it was a skating rink. It was ridiculous. The 24/7 title has yet to evolve and needs to evolve a little bit. And plus, it seems like Tamina is the only woman who is actually after this 24/7 title. The others don't seem to give a shit. Rightfully so. We got a Veer Mahan promo, an attack to his vignette this week, where he said the lion is the king of the jungle, and he must hunt to eat. Sometimes he hunts just for fun. We need to get this guy in the ring at some point. I mean, for fuck's sake. How long has it been? Has it been 3 months? It's been, I feel like it's been 3 months. Okay. Let's finally get into the Becky Lynch stuff. So, big time Bex. She comes out there. Oi! You thought it would be a fun night for Liv, huh? And it was. If Liv did win, let's say Liv won. If Liv did win, you look for reasons to doubt her. You don't know what you want. You don't know what you want. You don't know what it's like to be in the ring. You don't know what it's like to break gender barriers. You don't know what it's like to leave at the top of the industry and come back even better. Then Liv came out there and cut a very bad promo. Liv is, ooh boy. Oh God. Liv is struggling. She's very emotional. She's very emotional. And yes, I did see the kid stick her tongue out at Liv behind. Encapsulates Becky Lynch's promo perfectly, right? But I noticed that a lot of more people were critical of Liv this week. I noticed. But I'm not going to go into that because I got my own little criticisms of Liv that I'm going to get to in a moment. But Liv has said that Becky Lynch is a broken record, and people of St. Paul are tired of hearing it. And that the only person doubting her in this arena is Becky. And she said, I cried last week, but it was because I was disappointed. And I'm not ashamed of that because I know I can beat you and I believe it. Then she showed evidence of Becky Lynch cheating with the hand on the ropes. And she says that she's not ever going to give up until she makes that title mean something again. And she wants her to accept a rematch on day one. Becky Lynch, of course, then buries Liv Morgan by saying, you should blame yourself for not beating me to it. Blame yourself for not being prepared. Blame... You got no killer instinct. That was the best stuff. That was the best stuff of the promo. You know, yes, Becky Lynch has been saying the same thing over and over again. Most people in this company seem to be saying the same thing over and over again. They're really kind of beating home things on this show. They're beating the shit out of Becky Lynch left and came back better than ever. They're beating the hell out of that one. But the idea is, I like that part where Becky says, it's your fault for not doing it first. You know, it's your fault for not being prepared for it. You know, don't blame me for your lack of killer instinct. In other words, if you really wanted to be the champion, you would have cheated. If you really wanted to be the champion, you would have prepared for me cheating. But you didn't. You weren't prepared. So it's your fault you lost. And I like that. You know, because, and Liv got upset about it because, of course, she would get upset about it. You know, like, but why would you think that Becky Lynch would fight fair? You know, we've seen Becky cheat by grabbing the ropes numerous times now. I'm guessing that's going to end up, you know, backfiring on her eventually. And maybe this is a seed planted to how Liv Morgan is actually going to win the title. That maybe Liv is going to be the one that's going to grab the ropes. I'm not sure if I would do that. I think that would kind of bury Liv if she was to, you know, put her feet on the ropes or something like that. It would get her the belt, but it would shit on the moment. You know, she's being built up as being a very blue collar underdog babyface. She needs to just win the title. And I mean, and maybe not in dominant fashion where she hits Becky with her big finish in the middle of the ring. That's WrestleMania main event stuff. I don't know if we would go that far. But if she was to, let's say, counter a small package and beat Becky Lynch that way. If she was to, you know, hit a move out of nowhere that Becky wasn't, you know, expecting and get a crucifix on her or something like that. And, you know, a backslide or something. That would all make perfect sense because an underdog babyface can win matches in unexpected ways. If she was to do like a top rope hurricanrana, like a Rey Mysterio pin, like when Rey won the title at WrestleMania 22, you know, complete surprise. You know, that would be fine. You know, on some, I'm gonna hit you with my finish in the middle of the ring. It's like, I don't know about that one. I definitely think that Liv has to win the title at the end of this. I'm no longer in the camp that Bianca Belair has to win the belt back. I think she'll get it back eventually. But I am now in the camp that Liv has to win the title. You know, if Liv doesn't win the title, she's dead. You know, it's literally that simple. She's dead if she doesn't win the title. I don't think people will get behind her again if she doesn't win the title. And this is why I think she needs to win the title, because what took place outside the ring. As they fight, as they fight outside the ring. Liv's arm gets stuck in the steps, and Becky starts kicking it, and Liv starts selling the arm. And then Becky says, "Okay, I accept your challenge now that she's hurt. Now Becky accepts the challenge and says that she's going to go hang out with her hot husband and her new baby, and maybe Liv Morgan should put some ice on her injury." This is why, they keep digging that hole deeper and deeper. It's time for Liv Morgan to start climbing out. That said, Liv Morgan's punches couldn't bruise an infant. They were some of the weakest looking punches I have ever seen in a match. I've seen Alexa Bliss's punches seem to have more force than Liv Morgan's punches. And I don't know what you can do about that. I don't want her throwing those shitty forearm strikes either, because those look terrible, especially when Alexa Bliss does them. She has bony forearms. I just I'm not sure what you do. She's so small, and her punches don't look like they hurt. It looks like your little sister is play fighting with you. That's what it looks like. It looks like Becky Lynch is play fighting with her little sister. And to be quite honest, I didn't really feel how Liv was selling the arm either. I don't think she was selling the arm enough. I think she should have been wailing and crying, kind of like Eva Marie did when she got her arm stumped in the steps or something like that. Because I think if she'd have did it that way, the sympathy would have came rushing in. Because Liv is small and she's young, she plays a good damsel in distress. If she was an actress, that's what she would be in the movies. She would be the young hot girl who Michael Myers is chasing with the knife. She's backing up, and people would be like, "Oh shit, she's right." She'd be like the scream queen. That's what she should be here too. Like, this is her angle. This is her money shot right here. She should be screaming and using the tears if she can get them out, whatever it takes to really, really sell that her chance of winning is now gone, and they should really go the full distance with it. She should come out with like a cast on her arm, and, Becky wants to, attack the cast and beat up the cast or whatever, and she has to try to fight back with one arm, really milk this thing, because now the babyface fire has to come in. She's got an injury. She's already lost once. This is going to be her last chance. It's now time for the big comeback. This is the I'm about to say the third inning. This is the ninth inning. This is the fourth quarter. They've got maybe 2 or 3 more weeks before day one. This is the fourth quarter of this story, and Liv Morgan has got to win. Her performances have to improve. Now, that being said, I do believe that if Liv Morgan does win the title, she won't be champion long. Probably around Royal Rumble, she'd lose it back to Becky. And it probably wouldn't hurt Becky a bit to drop the belt to Liv Morgan for a short spell. But then after that, what's she going to do? Alexa Bliss was also talking about coming back. I don't believe you put Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan on the same brand. I just don't. I mean, it'd be competitive with the two of them. They can compete against one another. But it was like when I was dead set. I'm dead set against people who are too similar being on the same brand. And having, Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan on the same brand, it really hurts Liv Morgan, because Alexa Bliss's promo style is so much better, even though she's almost the exact same size. And, their offense is about equally bad, but at least Alexa Bliss knows how to, get sympathy. She also knows how to cry and whine and when to be mean and all that kind of stuff. Liv Morgan hasn't shown that range yet. So I love the angle. I like the angle of, Becky Lynch going after the arm. It's old school wrestling stuff. Now you got Liv Morgan, who's, going to go into her big match injured. And that's almost a guaranteed dub right there, man. I mean, it's a good cop out if they were to decide that she's going to lose. It's a good cop out. You can always blame the arm. But I ultimately of the position that she probably needs to win the title. All right. AJ and Amos had a heartwarming segment. Oh, it was so heartwarming. I got the goddamn Christmas spirit out of this joint. So Amos said, well, AJ Styles said that we ain't on our best. But, and Amos was disrespectful, but I'm not giving up on this tag team. And that Amos has raw talent, and that he's going to take responsibility for what happened. And he realized that Amos is a good kid. He wants to see Amos succeed. And he didn't know that Amos was listening. That Amos was listening. And Amos says he's not going to give up on the team either, which is very, very, very nice. And of course, just means that he's going to turn on AJ Styles later. And man, that's going to be so sad. It's going to be really sad because, to be quite honest, if they turn Amos babyface, it's over for him. So he got to stay a heel. But if everybody, myself included, and so many others, think that the plan is Edge versus AJ Styles, AJ Styles needs to be a heel for that. So I wouldn't turn him babyface anytime soon. But you can't have him with Amos going into that feud either. So something's got to happen where these guys break up. So maybe AJ Styles turns on Amos, but then babyface Amos. I don't know how that works. That's not good. That's no good. That doesn't work. All right. Next thing, you got Finn Balor and Damien Priest versus the Dirty Dogs, Big Bob Roode and Dolph Ziggler. So Finn Balor, he did his helo over the top rope, pretty much missed everybody, hit the floor. Austin Theory then distracted Finn Balor as he was going to the top rope by taking a selfie. Finn Balor jumps off the top rope, clotheslines Austin Theory, catches a zigzag, gets pinned. That sucked. That was not good. That was not good for Finn Balor. Not good. Especially since it was another distraction. Distraction. So many distractions. Babyface is getting distracted. Very weird, man. Very, very, very weird. Then Austin Theory decided to take his picture and run to Vince, who was hanging out with Apollo Crews. Like, could you imagine what that conversation must have been like between Vince McMahon and Apollo Crews? What on the world are those two have to talk about? Ha 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 ha! Mr. McMahon, have you met my commander, Aziz? Look at him commanding. He's so commanding. He's such a commander. Like, what the hell? What the hell are they talking about? Their favorite donuts? Their favorite movies? You think they're talking about novels? Talk about, is he giving a lecture on Nelson Mandela? What the fuck are they in there talking about? What could they possibly have in common? It's so random that I am curious as hell to what Vince McMahon is talking with Apollo Crews about in this office. I want to know. Somebody got to tell me something. Anyway, Vince excuses Apollo and Commander Aziz. And then Austin Theory comes in, shows him the picture, and Vince says, okay, well, I'm going to offer you a reward. He says, what do you want, an autograph? You want a pat on the back? What do you want? Austin Theory says that he wants to have a match to prove himself. And Vince says that he says that, they're not buddies. You come in here, you barge in here, you interrupt me. We're not buddies. We're not friends. I don't want any friends. I don't have any friends because I don't want any friends. And you're not impressing me. Then say he's going to use a deadly weapon. Then he pulled out a pencil. Then he had an eraser. And Austin Theory was definitely concerned about this eraser. What is he going to erase? Now, one of the things despite the fact, let's not spend too much time on the fact that Finn Balor lost. He's being brought down to Austin Theory, which is not good. Austin Theory should be brought up to him. They're bringing Finn Balor down. So when Austin Theory doesn't get over on this, just remember it's because they beat Finn Balor 100 times going into it. So, which of course doesn't help him at all. So you're stealing from Austin Theory at that point. I think I had this conversation when Bianca Belair was supposed to wrestle Bayley, but Bayley kept fucking losing to everybody. And I said it flatly, like, you're stealing from Bianca by having Bayley constantly fucking lose. You know, it's theft. If Austin Theory is going to beat up Finn Balor, wouldn't it behoove you to make Finn Balor look as strong as possible? Then Finn Balor shouldn't fucking lose. How about that? You know, it's common sense. You know, otherwise you're bringing him down. You're not building Austin Theory up. Whatever. In any event, one of the complaints that I saw was people saying that they didn't understand Vince in his promo because he was grumbling. And that is mostly true. I understood everything he said from the first pass, but that was through context clues. Like, he wasn't loud and clear. He was, somebody said he was like Batman from Batman Begins. And that's true. What are you going to do about Gotham? Gotham is full of good people. He does have that grumble to him. But I understood what he was saying, you know, through most of what he was saying. I did miss the part where he talked about the eraser. Now, I know that the eraser is attached to the pencil. It means that you're going to take something out, obviously. So what does he want Austin Theory to do? I guess that's the puzzle for what Austin Theory is supposed to be trying to figure out here. But I like this still, even though I don't really like what they're doing with Finn Balor. I don't like that part because I actually like Finn Balor. But I'm all in on Vince McMahon doing stuff to help Austin Theory, because we see something that is going to hopefully pay off in a big way down the line. This feels a lot like Vince grooming this guy for the next angle, you know, to be the next guy. You know, people hate him already anyway, but it doesn't feel it feels like he's investing more time into him than he did in Drew McIntyre. Like, Drew McIntyre was just a promo where he talked about how Drew McIntyre was the chosen one. When John Cena came out there, John Cena didn't even really, I don't think he even had an interaction with Vince. He basically just took Vince's word and went out there and said, ruthless aggression. You know? Yes. I feel like there's substantially more investment into Austin Theory. And hopefully that comes out of the other end. Perfectly fine. Now, Damien Priest is one of these guys who has been living high on the hog. He hasn't lost a match outside of this tag team match that he lost. He hasn't been pinned or submitted since he's been on Raw. He probably will be the guy who will going to end up putting Austin Theory over. And Austin Theory will end up taking that U.S. belt. I'm cool with that. I like that idea. I don't mind that. The issue that we're going to have here is making Austin Theory have enough heat where that makes sense, because Damien Priest is booked very strongly. And this is why you can't have Finn Balor losing every week, you know, because Damien Priest is booked very strong. Again, he's gone, 7 months without getting beat, you know, and on a roster where even the champions are getting beat. They're actually putting some effort into that guy. So I don't know, but I actually think that the investment into Austin Theory, hopefully it pays off. You know, there's no guarantee when it comes to WWE. Austin Theory could do something stupid like sneeze in Vince's presence and end up fucking this whole thing up. You know, he can make a funny face or send a stupid text or whatever, and Vince ends up killing this whole deal. I don't know, but right now I'm okay with the investment in Austin Theory. You know. I just wish that there was more direction. It's almost like Vince is trying to force Austin Theory to learn something without telling him what he's supposed to learn. And that's pretty confusing. Like whenever you see those old kung fu movies and you've got the old magician, the old mage, he always tells you, you know, what you need to learn. But Vince is going to be like Mr. Miyagi, and it's going to be like wax on, wax off. It's going to be like a bunch of goddamn secret codes and shit. I don't know how that's going to end up working out. But I'm in. I'm all in for anything the boss does. So let's see what's up with that. All right, so our final segment, at least from my notes, Miz, Maurice, and Edge. So Maurice starts the segment saying that she is going to be the host of Miz TV. The Miz, of course, is the guest. So The Miz says The Miz versus Edge is set for day one, is locked into place. The Miz wants to be proactive, as he's always been proactive, and says that he wants to introduce the Hall of Fame 2022 announcement, and it gets his full endorsement, and it is, of course, himself. A video package of himself. Then he says he's going to beat Edge and send Edge into retirement permanently. This was a swerve, of course, because I thought he was going to say that Maurice should be in the Hall of Fame. In which case, I probably would have said, okay, sure. You know, it would have made sense for him to say his wife should be in the Hall of Fame. Either, you know, we could debate whether Maurice should be in the Hall of Fame or not. But it would have made a lot more sense for him to just say Maurice should be a Hall of Fame instead of himself. But Maurice was kind of, he's like, okay, whatever. Then Edge emerged. He was actually blown up from his entrance, which is not good. That ain't good. Edge came out there and said that sometimes the squeaky wheel doesn't get the grease. Sometimes it just squeaks. Miz calls him annoying because he kept saying it squeaks and squeaks. And then it said Miz kept talking, and Edge said, look, you would get all the praise you would have to be looking for if you would just shut up. He said, I know why you act this way. You're looking for validation. You're insecure. And then Miz said, look, I'm not scared of you. Like, everybody was scared of Edge in the past. But this Edge, talk about, you know, blown up Edge who's, you know, couldn't barely get through his entrance. He was like, nah, not scared of this Edge. Edge called him a jack off and said that he's going to have to teach him a lesson. He said, you know, you thought I didn't stand up for you in 2006. I'm going to teach you that lesson now. And then Miz threw champagne in the eyes of Edge, threw some very weak punches. Edge, of course, was continuously standing through them. He didn't really even sell them. Then hit Miz with an impaler. He's going to spear Miz. Miz grabs Maurice. Edge pauses. You know, skull-crushing finale. Edge is down. Maurice gets mad at Miz. She gives Miz the riot act, and then she smacks him and storms off. And Miz, of course, is a well-whipped dog. Therefore, he goes back and, hey, what's going on? It wasn't like that. So this segment was okay. It wasn't the best. I get the central theme of it is that The Miz is now saying that he has surpassed Edge, which he said before, and that this would be a nice little cherry on top of his career, is ending Edge once and for all. And that's fine. You know, Edge comes out there and says that The Miz is insecure, which we know that this is true. You know, at the heart of every egomaniac is someone who's really insecure and never searching for validation. That much is true. You know, I have yet to meet somebody who's an egotist that isn't wildly paranoid and insecure about their position and their talent. And it's usually something that is bred into them. And therefore, them being braggadocious and being very loud about who they are and what they do is based very heavily on that insecurity. You know, because insecurity will make you do the weirdest things, man. You know, that's a deadly thing. That and stress. Like stress, it took forever for people to realize that stress makes you look old, and that stress can actually kill you. But insecurity is another one. Insecurity can, really ruin your life. It can really ruin the lives of a bunch of other people too. So I respect that Edge called him out on that. Okay, cool. But But we all know, and I think it's not that wild to say, that Maurice smacking Miz is just a ruse. It's going to make everybody think that Maurice is not going to be in his corner for day one. And then she's going to show up and, scratch Edge's eyeballs out or something like that. And cause Miz to win. Which I am, to be quite honest, literally thinking like, wow. Because I thought this was going to be a soft match for Edge and Edge was going to win. And, we move on to something more serious at the Royal Rumble. But now I'm thinking maybe we're going to have 2 matches out of this. And maybe after Miz and Edge at day 1, they do the tag team match. The Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Miz and Maurice. I like that idea too. I think that idea is great. That idea is fun. I want to get the girls involved. Why not? There's no real reason why you shouldn't do it. And I think if you want to give Edge a couple of soft matches where you use his name essentially to draw the house, and you do that where he doesn't have to do any type of intense labor. Like his matches with Randy Orton were really intense. His matches with Seth Rollins were really intense. You want to give him a couple of softer matches, unlike, the CM Punk situation. But, so I'm cool with that. But only 1 or 2 though, because he didn't come back to wrestle guys like The Miz. He came back to get in the ring with guys who can tear it up and guys who he never worked with before. And Miz is a guy he has never really worked with before, but The Miz is not on that level. As much as I love The Miz, he's not the guy that we all want to see Edge wrestle, He's just not it. So, this is a good start. Let's put it like that for his run on Raw. But there's a lot of guys I want to see Edge wrestle on Raw. And I don't want him wasting too much time on The Miz. But that will also depend on how much longer Edge intends to do this. Because I do truly believe that, Edge will probably win another title before he leaves. Will he win that belt from Big E? I don't know. Would he win it from Lashley or somebody like that? I don't know. I think it would have probably made a lot more sense for his storyline if he'd have beat Seth Rollins for it. But, they decided to go a different way with Roman Reigns and everything. But which is the right decision, by the way. But I'm okay with Miz and Edge right now. They escalate this thing from the next level. They had a pretty good promo segment to start. The second promo segment was okay, was good. Not as good as the first one, but it was good. This one is the third one. It devolved into violence, so they're escalating now. So we got to take it to the next level. And what's the next level? I don't know. Maybe Edge takes a week off to let Miz talk, and Miz can talk him into the building. And Miz can talk about how Edge is, old, washed up, all that kind of stuff. Edge just ain't got it anymore. And then, maybe Edge makes a big return the next week. He beats up Miz. Then Miz refuses to show back up the next week. And then Edge does the go home show where he cuts the promo on Miz. And maybe Miz sends in a video package or something like that. So, okay, cool. All right, let's just do it that way. But ultimately, I think Raw was okay. I liked some of this stuff, not all of it. But, it's always going to be a mixed bag when it comes to Raw. It's 3 hours, But at least the show went by pretty fast. And at least it tried to tell a story throughout the entire show. So what more can I ask for? All right. Thank you guys for your time. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys. I'll talk to you guys later.